What?
Where do you put these recorded videos
On YouTube. Did I do them unsubscribed? So you actually have to have the link. I might open them up though. I might. Somebody's talking me into it, but it's more or less for my learning public speaking. So that's really what I'm recording for. But it's on YouTube. But I might open them up. So, but hey, you're here. All right, hey guys. So this is practical prepping. I've always kind of been a prepper ever since my uncle was a Y2K prepper. So some of you older guys know what that was. I was in grade school, 8th grade I think, that 2000. But, you know, sorry, didn't mean to throw that out there. But so my uncle kind of, instilled this kind of thinking in on me of, hey, you need to be there for your family, because that's what we do as men. We take care of our families. Well, what better way to take care of your family than being prepared for things that come up in life, whether it's just losing a job to a tornado, which is a small scale inconvenience, might take out your house, but it's not so large that you're going to be in it forever, right? You got insurance, you're going to rebuild, you're going to get over that fairly quickly, rather than economic collapse or hurricanes wiping out a whole state. So I've been doing this for a little while now, and where I really started off was after I got married, had a couple kids. I thought I need to take care of them, especially tornadoes. Those are what I saw was one of the leading things of being an inconvenience and needing to be prepared for. So one thing I did come up with was, for all of my kids, I have them write shirts and with information. So if either I'm not at home, or if I am unconscious or unable to provide information for the first responders digging us out of our house, or if they are over at the park and get taken out by a tree or whatever, however that scenario goes. Well, actually, they wouldn't be wearing this over at the park, so that doesn't work. These are shirts that, if we had to go to down to the basement and a tornado was bearing down on us, it's information that I want the first responders to know for my kids, that if I'm unable to give that information out. It's going to have things like mom and dad's phone numbers, grandmas. I've got one grandma in Topeka, and then another in-laws live in the same place I do. So phone numbers to reach out if I'm unconscious, but they're fine. If they don't need to go to the hospital, then take them to grandma's house somewhere, but they need, people need to be able to get a hold of those family members. So,
smart.
So I've got phone numbers on here, allergies, or any other kind of information you need to let people know, like autism or anything like that. If you've got a little one that's somewhat autistic and doesn't like to be touched, hey, put that information on here, and as a first responder myself, if I see that information, I'm going to help that kid, in the way he needs versus the way I think he needs or they need. Along with, I already said allergies, and then hospital. So if they can get that person to the hospital we use, they've already got all their medical records and know what they, what works for them. Because my daughter, when she was first born, she was allergic to penicillin, but isn't now, so that's not a big thing. So that's one thing that I kind of came up with to make long-term safety for my kids. Another thing I had was I started with a truck toolbox. So I had an old truck toolbox, carried that down to the basement, put it under the stairs. Works great to keep all this stuff in, and it's a bench, it's a bed, it's whatever I need it to be. We can sit sit on it, sleep, the kids can lay on it, whatever we need. Along with those shirts, we also have a change of clothes for everybody. So, tornadoes hit quite a bit at night. So we all have our own change of clothes. If we end up going down there and whatever we went to bed at night in, we now have clothing, some good shoes to put on. So your old work boots or whatever, instead of throwing them out or whatever, throw those down in your tornado box. You can wear those again, and and whenever you got to dig out of your house, if you don't have your good primary shoes, throw those down there so you've got those. So clothing, PPE, so gloves. I went garage sailing. I found some old bicycle helmets for 25 cents. So now if something actually is coming down on us, my kids are going to be wearing bicycle helmets to protect their heads. Because we do live in an older home. I don't have a storm shelter or a concrete room like I wish I did, but we're going to make do with what we got. So we're going to protect ourselves as best as we can. Bicycle helmets, hard hats, any other kind of head protection, safety glasses, gloves, boots, any other kind of PPE that you think you need or you want to wear. So going from that, now we've got to food. Or I'm sorry, skipping the stage. Getting out. So we have with our neighbors, because I work my long shifts. My wife might be down in the basement by herself, so I talk to our neighbors. He's home most of the time. He's got one, and we've got one. So that way, if my wife needs to get a hold of him for whatever reason, or he needs to get a hold of us, we're all in our basements and whatnot. We can talk to each other and keep track on each other and help each other out. So have communication, have networking with your neighbors, and whatever you need to do there. So communication, being able to get out, tools to actually be able to get out of your home. Say it was just one silly branch or something that's blocking your door. I'm not saying cut your trusses, cut your floor joists or anything like that, but have some kind of pry bars, ropes, saws, some small hand tools, something like that. If you need to do some minor evacuation or extrication, you're able to do that a little bit nicer. Like I said, I went with the garage sailing, got bicycle helmets. I also got a couple pry bars, some rope, and a tree saw or a hand saw for tree cutting. Just have that down there. If I've got to cut one little board, it's getting in the way of me getting out, I can cut that board and get out. And then from there, what if we can't get out? Well, I've got one nice thing to have is maybe a little bit of food. Food, water, and bathroom utilities. So in a 5-gallon bucket, I've got trash bags and some toilet paper and some stuff to put on there for smell containment. And then inside the truck toolbox, I've got food, water. I've got MREs, because with something like that, I just want to put some food in my belly. I don't want to have to prepare it or anything like that with the more long-term stuff. But I just want something short-term just to make up, maybe something a little comforting, like the MREs that I can heat up and actually somewhat enjoy. So I'm going to have more of the quick making meals that are ready to eat. So with the tornado thing, quick meals, quick bottles of water. None. I don't worry about filtration or anything like that when I'm focusing on small tornado things, and bugging in for that kind of thing. So we're gonna start at 3 days. So let's figure tornado comes through, wreaks havoc in the area. If you can sit pretty for 3 days without anything that you have in your normal house, you're sitting a lot better than anybody else. Even if you take that stuff and go to a hotel room, your stores, depending on the location wherever you guys live, stores might be impacted pretty good, maybe even knocked out or taken out because of the storm like Joplin did a few years ago. I went down there and helped with that, and the disaster was pretty widespread for that city, and a lot of people reaching out looking for supplies and stuff. It goes a long way. If you've already got 3 days worth of stuff, that's fine. In that bag of clothing, like I said, also hygiene. So be thinking of things like that. Got a small tube of toothpaste, toothbrushes for everybody, and that way you can keep up on hygiene, things like that. So we're gonna kind of the way I did it and the way I promote it is take baby steps. Start small. Your small isolated incidences like your tornadoes or whatever you deem that you need to be prepared for. Something small. Just start with 3 days. From there, we can bump up to being prepared for 3 to 5 months, and that's going to be more into like the foods and the stuff you already consume. Not just foods, but your hygiene, your body wash, your soaps, your medications, things like that. Your everyday items. Be thinking about everything you use from day to day. And now we're kind of wrapping into, okay, not tornadoes, but something that we've been kind of experiencing here lately with food shortages and your economic collapses and your toilet paper bum rushes, and just things like that. Your just disturbances. So be thinking of everything that you use every day or every week, and have a little bit on hand. Don't go crazy on it and buy a whole extra bedroom worth of toilet paper, but have enough on hand where you should never be, oh crap, I'm out of this, I have to go to the store and get it. You should always be, okay, now I'm down to, I finally opened up this package of toilet paper. It goes upstairs, for me, my system, it goes upstairs to the bathroom, and then I'm going to resupply the shelf in the basement with an unopened package of toilet paper. And that way you've always you just got it. So a big old snowstorm comes through, and I can't get out of my house for 3 or 4 days. I don't want run out of toilet paper right then, and then have to risk going out. I want to still sit comfortably. So have your everyday essential items, a little bit on hand, and you'll be sitting a lot more comfortably. You won't have to worry about, you won't have to go do those what do they call them? Frenzy buyers, panic buyers. You won't be one of those. I mean, it's fun to go out and do that. It's kind of thrilling and whatnot, but it's not a necessity for you. And don't put yourself in that risk of being part of a mob or something like that, putting you at risk when you've got a family at home to take care of.
Isn't there some thought process to preventing the backup, like COVID and toilet paper? Like, I've got so many clothes. I don't really have to have toilet paper. I can get a t-shirt. One of my t-shirts, I can get 20 wipes out of it.
Yeah.
Like just cutting up. So even having just a backup to, it may not be the normal or necessary, what you necessarily think of, but some of it's just, I don't have to, because of the freak storm, go rush to get toilet paper. Even though I don't have a lot, I've got old towels and rags.
Right. But with like your t-shirts, you're not going to flush those. So then you got to do something different. But
throw them outside.
Right. Yeah. Or Ziploc bag and throw them in the trash or whatever. Yeah. That right there, that having that mentality is the starting point, the fundamentals of prepping. You've got to be able to think outside the box and come up with a scenario that you think is likely, and come up with 2, 3, 4 solutions to that problem. That right there is the basis of being a prepper. It's not all this crap on the table. It's not It's not stuff. It's a mindset.
Like the water in the top of the boat,
Exactly.
clean.
Yes.
Winter, by all freezing pipes, fill up your bathtub.
Right.
It
Yep.
may not be the cleanest tasting, but you get one of those,
Right here. Yes.
or you boil it or whatever.
Water in your water.
That's 40 to 80 gallons. Yep.
All of them have tap it up on the bottom. You got
Yeah.
days
Okay,
of water.
so let me throw something out here. You guys have already been thinking about this. Let me throw this out here. What do you think would be an issue or a problem with relying on that water? Do you see an issue with if you?
Water tank, you might
High
get
calcium
less
levels.
oil in it.
Okay,
Heavy metals.
supply. Just supply of it being there. Do you think you need to do something to secure that water?
A little bit of bleach, so it doesn't get stagnant. If you're going to be
Shut
sitting.
your, depending on what the situation is, I'd shut off the supply.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because you can get, and bathtub, obviously, you want to be,
Right.
You know the storm's coming, whatever. It's like, okay, I'm going to clean it first, just
Yep.
because I can always boil it or filter it out of pulling it out of the bathtub. But
So
you
we're-
wanna eliminate or reverse siphon.
Right. Yes. So where I live, they just redid our water tower, and they shut our water on and off for a couple weeks, and we found out we went to turn on the water. Well, we hear air bubbles. What does that mean? That means the water is being sucked out of our house, and our water lines are filling up with air, and we're losing water. If that was a true emergency situation, you want to make sure you turn off your water supply shut-off valve in your basement, crawl space, wherever it may be, and that way you maintain that water that you have in your house, in your pipes, your tanks, and stuff like that. So it's picking up on signs of, hey, I'm losing my water when I turn it on. It's going somewhere else. I'm losing my water. It's coming up with, hey, you need to do something to fix that.
You open it, and that creates the vacuum.
Right.
And it goes down.
It's a
because
siphon.
There's less pressure. The pressure isn't coming this way.
Right.
It's going that way. So it's going to
So
literally
somewhere
suck it
at
in.
a lower elevation is open, and the water's going out that way. So just maintaining what water you have in your house is important. And then if you've got to go external and go get water, you're going to want things kind of like this to clean and remove odors and tastes. This is just a camper. I've got a camper, so I buy these quite often. But this is just a activated charcoal filter, and all it does is it just removes excess chlorine, any odors, smells, or anything, and makes your water more enjoyable to drink. It does not make your water any safer though. So be careful, do your research, and figure out what you're buying and what you need to have. So this will not actually clean your water like, say, these filters here. These filters, to be able to filter your water, is actually removing any bugs, viruses, or anything like that that is going to make you sick. So you need to filter it. Well, then Kansas River, we have a lot of irrigation, a lot of farm ground around here. So now we also have not only just viruses and stuff, but now we also have chemicals and pesticides and all that kind of stuff running into our waters. This will also remove some of that stuff too, your chemicals, and absorb some of those stuff that could make you sick. Not on more of a immediate like a virus would, but if you take in too much of those pesticides and stuff, it can make you sick more long term. So doing both a filtration and then also a purification is necessary. They kind of go hand in hand, or at least that's how I see it. So you can do several hundred, several thousand gallons with something like these, or you can do more of something a little more personal with a emergency, like a life straw. So I carry one of these whenever I go, actually in my get home bag, I carry one of these, and I can basically just drink out of any stream, puddle, anything like that, and get some water just straight to my body. Can't really do any processing. Like if I wanted to do some cooking with water, it'd be a little bit harder with this because I'm basically sucking water. So not really set up for doing meals, whereas this would be more, I could pour water into a cup, heat it up, and then put it in my freeze-dried meals like that. So play with your equipment, know what they can do, know their capacities and their pros and cons. So don't just buy something and throw it on a shelf. Like I was saying with first aid kit, know what's in there, know how your equipment works. More of your long-term major storage. This will hold up to 65 gallons. It's a bladder that goes in your bathtub and keeps the water clean. That way you're not drinking all your soap scum water, bathtub, nasty water that you just got done cleaning your body with. And then so we've got water. We've now covered ways of your different levels from just personal. Oh, you can also purify your water or not pure. Yeah, purify your water with chlorine tablets. So you can either filter them out, all your bugs and viruses, or you can kill them with chlorine tablets or bleach. I think it's like a quarter teaspoon per 1 gallon of water. Decently clean water, and it's now safe to drink. So it's not a lot of bleach. Bleach is something that you also want to kind of have on hand for different things. Hydrogen peroxide is actually a very clean and safe and multi-purpose thing to have on hand. They actually prefer that to cleaning surfaces rather than using bleach. It's not as dangerous to us, and it does a lot better job on cleaning surfaces.
Bleach in the water for like storage, stacking or growing bacteria.
Yeah.
Doing that dose down and setting some comes to a gallon.
Yeah, that's how we do. So after our water tower incident last year, we started saving like all of our juice bottles. I started just filling those up because it's like you just go and want to wash your hands. It's like, oh crap, we don't have any water. So it's just, you already soaked up, and so I keep a couple things of juice water, just tap water.
Yep. Or you can flush your toilet.
Yep.
Just fill the back of the tank up if you had to.
Yep. But so I started keeping juice containers of water, and then once that was over, I kept them full. But then I just added a quarter teaspoon of bleach into them, and now they're just on my shelf for the next time they decide to turn my water tower off. So we've talked about water. Now food. This is one thing that I played with was last year. So like I said, my uncle, he was a Y2K prepper, and he had food and stuff prepped for like 5 different families. And so he did the method like I have down here where it's just beans. He had beans, rice, elbow macaroni, flours, corns, basically all your major grains and pastas and stuff in 5-gallon buckets like that. But we opened up, my mom and my siblings, we opened up 1 5-gallon bucket of elbow macaroni from 1999, and it still tastes good. We opened it up 2 years ago, and I'm still eating that elbow macaroni. And so it really worked out great, and it's been 23 years since that was originally packaged.
It is oiled macaroni.
So the way he stored it, so the way he did it back then, and then I'll tell you about the way I do it now, he used dry ice. So the way you do that is he did some bags, and then through some whatever material, whatever food you're going to put in the bucket, and then put a piece of dry ice and a piece of paper towel, threw that in the bottom, and then filled up your bucket with the elbow macaroni or whatever. And then as soon as you start seeing that fog from that dry ice, that dioxide, the carbon dioxide from the dry ice, push all the oxygen out because it's heavier, right? So it's going to push all that oxygen out, then you seal the lid. And that basically has removed all the oxygen that oxidizes your food, makes it go bad. Another way you can do it nowadays is get oxygen absorbers. And that's how this is sealed and that's sealed. With my family, I didn't want to have to open up 7 5-gallon buckets of food that would last me, 2 years to eat. I wanted to do something a little more immediate and something where I could open it up maybe like 1 bucket a week. So I put a whole bunch of foods like this and did just a whole bunch, and I've got a list of everything that I put in this bucket, and with the calories and the proteins that I have in this bucket, it'll last my family. Well, my boy's still growing, so right now it'll last my family about a week. And I was able to put this bucket together for about 80 bucks.
Where do you buy the buckets at?
Do what?
Where do you buy the buckets?
I get the buckets. So these, talking about the buckets, these are food grade buckets. I got them from Lowe's. The buckets were like 7 and then the lids were like 3. But the way I did this, I did not necessarily need the food grade bucket. So if it doesn't have direct food contact, save money and don't worry about food grade buckets. You can just get your generic, just 5-gallon bucket and save some money there. So I kind of overdid that a little bit, even with the beans.
Is there actually a seal in the lid of the bucket?
Yes. So the lid, it actually has a rubber seal inside. So you do have to go expensive on the lid. Don't just get one of the cheap snap-on lids. You do have to make sure it has a rubber seal in here. But as you can see, I mean, it's got sucked. It's still got a vacuum in there.
The oxygen out.
Yeah. And I don't know where it puts it. I don't know where it puts the oxygen, but it definitely has sucked it down to where it now is under a vacuum. So it's doing its job. Even the beans, they say if you do food like that, so that Canadian Prepper channel that I was talking about earlier, he has a video with doing the 5-gallon bucket food storage. And if you do flour, ground white flour, and you put it in a Mylar bag, which is what this is, they make bags made for 5-gallon buckets. You put the flour in there, you put your oxygen absorber in here. You're gonna, for flour, ground flour, you want to do about 4,000 cc's. Depending on, when we figured this out, these oxygen absorbers, they look like the same size, but you got to make sure you keep track of the labels because they're all different sizes, different levels of cc's of oxygen absorber. So these are 1,000s, but they look exactly like the 2,000s that my sister bought. So keep track of what you have, and that was one lesson we learned. But that ground flour takes 4,000 cc's of oxygen absorber, and then what you can do is get a hair straightener, and then just crimp this bag, or push out all the air, and then crimp this bag, and then put a lid on it. So, and then basically like that flour will last 30 years inside of a Mylar bag with oxygen absorbers in like a 5-gallon bucket. So that 5-gallon bucket is basically just protecting the Mylar bag, but then also keeping some of the sunlight out and stuff that's going to deteriorate the food. So, but yeah, back to this. So, whatever your family likes. I made a couple of these last year. In about a year, I'm going to open it up and see how they do. I want to go well past the expiration dates on the actual foods and see how they do, because I figured it's the packaging that pretty much dictates the expiration date of why the food is going bad. And so if you take the atmosphere away from it, it's not going to get that moisture and that stuff to deteriorate the food inside the package. So that was kind of my mentality there. So next year, maybe I'll have some results for you of how that works. But we made a couple different ones. We made more of like the home style stuff, and then I did more of a Mexican themed one. That way, you know, like I said, I've got kids. I want to keep things mixed up for them, so that way they keep intaking on food. I put Jolly Ranchers in here. You gotta enjoy the little things in life. You know, it's not just doom and gloom and survival, but if you can throw in the enjoyable things in there, it'll make things, especially for the younger ones, the little kids, it'll make life a little bit easier for them. So it's just stuff like that, and however, you know, with things, whatever makes it easier for you. So you don't really want to stock up just on MREs. MREs have a lot of stuff in there that you don't really want to consume on a long-term, everyday basis. They're packed with way too much protein that your body just generally needs on an everyday thing. They're geared more towards, you know, the military and eating one MRE a day and going all day, you know, hiking or fighting or whatever they're doing. That, you know, they're not really designed for us to be eating every single day. So do your research on what your intake is and how you want to get that intake. So then another option to go, I don't know if you guys did Cindy's freeze drying class up there, but these here are commercially freeze dried foods. Scrambled eggs, grilled chicken. They've got all kinds of meals, or all kinds of food, from your fruits and your vegetables and your meats and your cheeses and your dairy and your all kinds of stuff that you can do this way, and then you can actually make your meals that way. Or if you want, you can get a freeze dryer like Cindy does, or like my sister and I did, and then you can make your own meals. This one is red beans and rice with hamburger. We found out that actually turned out really good. Rehydrating this, it actually became a really good meal. So I'll be taking this backpacking with me this winter, and feeding me and two other guys. We'll be eating really nicely that night. So that's going farther out, either if you're active, like doing it for stuff like that, or you could save that for, you know, 30 years, being packaged like that. It's got that shelf life. But like I said, it's kind of like a savings account. You start small, you go 3 to 5 days, and then you go a little bit bigger, you go 3 to 5 months, and now we're kind of working our way up into 3 to 5 years of being self-sufficient. Another thing, if you want, or if you're able to, or have the ability, is canning. One thing I heard a while ago was that, say we go under martial law and the government starts commandeering our food supplies, you know, raiding houses and taking food supplies. I was told by somebody that they won't be taking home canned foods or foods like that, or you know, something that's been made at home, because they can't verify that it was done correctly. So if you have the ability or the desire to do your own home canning, that might not be taken by the government, say if we go under martial law and get raided. That's going out there. That's a little bit farther than the practical prepping, but you know, we always need to be looking, you know, one step further. Along with the practical prepping, so we've kind of maintained our home, maintained our survivability. Oh, sorry. With doing foods like this, your wheats and your corns and everything, they're going to last a lot longer in the full kernel or the full germ, wheat germ. So if you do that and you're looking at long term, you're going to need something like this, a grinder. That way you can actually make your breads and stuff. So along with doing just this stuff, my wife picked up sourdough making. So she started learning how to make sourdough bread. And so now we've got that kind of in our arsenal that, hey, she can make bread, now we can trade it for eggs with the people with chickens around. So if you're gonna do a process, try it out. We did. We took some of the wheat germ that we did, we ground it up, and she found out that it's completely different than store-bought flour. Her bread flopped, and she had to try it a couple different times, and then she figured out, oh hey, with the whole germ and the natural grinding, with the whole germ in there, there's more oils and stuff in the flour than what is in store-bought white flour. So she had to change some things with her bread making. And so she figured that out now rather than figuring out if we got to do it in real life. So play with your systems and know what you're looking at. So we've kind of taken care of our home front. So what if we are out on the road and we're not home? So what I carry with me is a get home bag. I carry this backpack along with this little pouch that goes with it, and then also my first aid kit that I take almost everywhere. So this bag is basically just to get me home a little bit more comfortable, a little bit safer, and increase my chances of me getting there. I don't have this bag packed completely full to the gills because I've got stuff in my truck that I'm also going to want to put in there, like my everyday work gloves, maybe some boots that I have at work that I wear are going to go in here, or whatever I might find along the way that I want to carry, like my water bladder for my camel pack is going to go in here. I'm going to fill this up before I leave work or wherever I might be. I'm going to fill this up with some water before I take a hike and try and get home. If I'm going on foot, something bigger has happened. Either an EMP has taken out my truck, or I'm probably not going to hike home with a snowstorm, but it might be a tornado and I can't. They've closed the roads and now I've got to hike home. Whatever it might be, I want to be able to get there a little bit easier. So I'm going to be going through wherever I'm at, grabbing the supplies that I think I need, and putting them in this backpack for that journey home. A couple things that I do have in here are like binoculars. I want to be able to scout out ahead of me and make sure I'm not going to be walking into a dangerous environment, group of people, or hiking somewhere and find out I've just got to backtrack and go a different route because that was I was unable to get home that way. A couple different sources of light, a couple more sources of light, silverware. If I find some food on the way, I can use that. But that's also for not even just get home, that's even for my vehicle. Say, I get stranded and in my truck, snowstorm, I'm stuck in a ditch, and maybe I've got some canned food or something in my truck, or an MRE or something. I can use that silverware for that. I'm gonna have stuff to kind of keep me busy on my trip home. So sunflower seeds. I want to maintain to be mobile. So most of my intake is going to be foods like this, where I can just eat it as I go. I'm not going to do freeze-dried foods where I got to heat up water, or even MREs, because then you got to stop, you got to heat them up, you got to open up your packaging, and I want to maintain. My goal is to get home to my family. So I'm going to do just things that are not affected by weather. I don't care if this gets frozen. It can sit in 100 plus degrees in my truck. it's not going to affect this. I can still eat it. That's why I don't keep bottled water in here. I do during the summer when I'm working, but I don't generally keep water in my truck because then it just freezes. Then you can't drink it. So I'm going to pretty much just get my water wherever I can get it. And that's what this is for. So it's that life straw. I carry it with me, and I can basically just drink as I go. If I am somewhere like at my job or a building or some other business or something along the way, or a house along the way, I can snack some water and take it with me with this or a Camel pack. But I've also got another first aid kit just for this, just in case if I need this. Also, if I'm along my way home, somebody's injured and they look like they've got things taken care of, but they need some medical supplies. Here you go, just take it. I'm getting to my family. Here you go, good luck. That's why it's just in a Ziploc bag. I can give it to somebody in need and help them out, and maybe even barter with it. Who knows? Stuff like that. If you guys have ladies, women in your life, one of these are pretty nice. It's so that they can just pee on the go. It's like a wiener for them. But that has really come in handy. My daughter and I go backpacking a lot, and she'll use that, and it's a lot easier than for her to like squat. So here's a power supply. So it's got a solar panel. What I will do is attach this to the top of my bag, and it can stay charged. It has a light on the back, but then I can also keep my devices charged up with this. So that's the main pack, and then on top of that, I'll have this little thing, which carries I've got a compass, so that way I can maintain my direction. I've got more lights. This can also go into a fanny pack, so if I'm needing to spread out my load or make it more comfortable, I can either attach this onto there or put it on as around my waist. I've got another headlamp, toilet paper, wet wipes, ferro rod, another pocket knife, another lighter, and then this kind of became just my snack bag. So I've got more foods that I can eat on the go.
What was a ferro?
Like flint and steel.
Oh.
Yep, it's just something to strike with, or your yeah, it's ferro, but it's like your flint. And then I've got I haven't ever used this, but it's a Survivor filter. So it has the filter, and then it also has a little activated charcoal disc in here that purifies your water too. So it does both of the filtering and the cleaning of the taste. So, but like I said, I haven't used it. It's kind of one of those I'll use it when I need it kind of things. And then a multi-tool. So for whatever I might need. If middle of summer, I don't want to be hiking home and just get eaten up alive. So, I figured if I got to sleep in a ditch or something, I want to cover up with this. And that way I'm not just eaten alive if I'm having to rest or hide out in a ditch. So that's a get home bag. I'm sure you guys have also heard about bug out bags. I don't have bug out bags. I have my backpacking equipment, and then I have all this stuff right next to it where if I had to bug out, I can do it fairly quick, but it's not just a grab and go, because with where we're located, I don't see a reason of having to bug out within, minutes, because the way I see that is that's more for your forest fires, your riots in big cities, things like that, where you have to get out of the area right away. With where I live, I don't foresee having to leave my home, leave my shelter, leave all my supplies, and run for safety. I I just don't see that as being probable or likely to happen. So I don't have a bug out bag other than here's my camping bags and here's all the stuff I'm going to throw in it, and I can probably be out the door with my family 15, 20 minutes. Now, if I lived up in the woods, you know, up in the mountains where they have forest fires and, hey, it's heading your way, it's moving fast, you need to get down the road and you got to go, I would probably have a good bug out bag. Or if I was in a big city and, you know, all those riots were happening a few years ago, I would probably have a bag ready for me for then. But because when you are running like that with a go bag, you're basically a glorified refugee. You're on the road. As if you don't have a destination, if you don't have somewhere better to go, you're a refugee. You're basically now depending on other people to survive, right? So, but if that is the case, and you do have to go, a couple things that I like to have with that is documentation. So each of my bags, if I was to have a go bag, each of my members of my family would have a go bag, and all of those bags would have all the same documentation and stuff so that we can all identify each other or prove whatever we may need. So along with driver's licenses, self-portraits of everybody. So say you get separated and you're looking for this guy here, you know, hey, have you seen my son? Along with not self-portrait, with a good picture, you also want to have a group photo of your entire family. That way you can prove, hey, this is my family. We're all together. We go as one. You know, if they ever say, no, you need to separate, we're only taking, you know, the kids or whatever. No, we're a group. Along with having paper form documents, it's also probably good to have all of that information, maybe even that information of your mortgage, your home insurance, all of those other important documentations. Just take a picture of those and put them on an SD card or on a thumb drive, and that way, and this is good not even just for the bugging out, but I've taken pictures of all of our documentation, and then I've got a thumb drive, or it's actually on an external hard drive in my safe. And then that way, if my house ever, you know, goes through a fire and the firefighters are spraying water and ruins all of my paperwork, I've got it on another device where I can at least get that information. So having different types of the same information is good to have in different forms. I also have if I need to, I have an SD card reader that I use for hunting, that I can look at an SD card on my phone. So if I needed to, I could pull up all that documentation on here, pull it up on my phone, and have it as I go. So if I didn't have the paper form. But have a nice waterproof folder like this in each of your bug out bags, and that way each kid, you know, that way, you know, if your kid gets separated, some good person comes across and says, hey, you're lost, you know, they can get that document and know what mom and dad look for, and be looking and helping with reuniting your children with you, not just you looking for your kids. But like I said, in the way I see things, bug out bags are a little not really conducive to what I see. But if you're going to build one, there's City Prepper on YouTube. He has a really good video of how he has it. He's in California, up in the mountains, to where he does have to contend with forest fires and leaving his home at a moment's notice. So he does have a really good video and application for his go bag. So he knows what he's kind of going up against there. If you want to go a little bit farther with the prepping and the conspiracies and stuff like that, Russia, playing with nukes and setting off a nuke above our atmosphere, creating an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, and frying all of our technology. A Faraday cage. You guys familiar with Faraday cages? Okay. So basically, a nuclear device, if they set it off up in our atmosphere, it's going to put out a pulse, an electromagnetic pulse. It's going to go out in a sphere, and they're going to set it off to not necessarily give us the
Not the impact. It's about 5 miles up.
it's not the impact, and it's not the radiation that we're getting. So we're not there. They would, or they could possibly set it off up in the atmosphere, so that, because you're going to have that radiation cloud going across, and that's bad for the whole world, right? So, but what they can do is they can set it off up in the atmosphere, creating an electromagnetic pulse or sphere hitting an area and basically knocking out all of their electronic devices. Trucks, radios, cell phones, TVs, everything electronic is
Anything with a
basically
computer.
fried. What?
Anything with a computer or batteries.
Pretty much, yeah. So a Faraday cage basically isolates those electronic devices from those electromagnetic pulses. There's different information on whether some people say, well, a Faraday cage needs to be grounded. You need to put a grounding rod and a grounding cable to ground it. Other people say no, it doesn't. So what I did was I have a Faraday cage and a Faraday cage. I basically made it double layered. So what I do here is I have a paint can. Oh yeah, it's holding my papers down. So I have my extra ham radio. I have a radio, FM radio like this in here. Ham radio for communications, and a couple, actually these two walkie-talkies in here. So that way when all communication goes down, if I've got to go out and leave the family, I can go out and then leave one walkie-talkie with my family.
It's a Faraday cage.
Yeah. So you can go as simple as that, and basically that's just like aluminum or metal line, and basically it keeps all electromagnetic pulses out of it. So that's for what, like a laptop?
Whatever.
Or whatever, yeah.
iPad, laptop, cell phone.
Yep. So in this, I have cardboard in here because it's the metal that's conducting that electromagnetic pulse. So I have a insulation of cardboard in here, and then I'll keep my devices in here. And I haven't tested this. I don't know if it works. I don't know if it needs to be grounded. But like I said, this is the system I kind of came up with. Do your research, figure out kind of what you believe and what you think. And then I'll be able to close this. And then I'll put it in here, which is also, I've got my ham radio antennas, clips, things that I want to keep with my devices but don't need to necessarily be protected. But then I've got foam and stuff in here to isolate this can from this can. So now I've got two shields, two levels of shielding away from the magnetic pulse. Because depending on the size of the nuclear bomb and the intensity of the EMP, it might penetrate something like that. It might penetrate this, it might penetrate both. But I figured, you know what, let's double up on this and see if that works a little bit better. So I did this after the whole thing with Russia and Ukraine, and Russia talking about their nuclear bombs and stuff. So I did something like this just because, you know, hey, why not? Cost me a few dollars, and it was kind of fun to do some research and play with.
So, talk more about the ham radio.
So ham radio is amateur band radios. You have to have a license to broadcast. You can get a ham radio and you can listen to it. They're regulated by the FCC, and so the license, I think it's like $100. It's a little one-day class and a test. You can go get your tech license and then you can broadcast on them. That's what this little guy is. This one I carry in my truck, and I'll talk to people all around here. But like I said, you have to have a license. You have to have a handle to talk on those. But in a case of emergency, I've been told that in an emergency, you don't have to have a license to broadcast on them. Now, you do have to have a little bit of knowledge of how they work, because unlike, so this is an amateur band. These are what two-way walkie-talkies are on what is called the family band. And then you've got another one in between the two. I can't remember. It's like CB. Then you have the CB civilian band. But then you have another one that is like a $40 license. I can't remember the name of it, but I would recommend going that route. A lot of the the Jeep guys, the over the land traveling guys use those. They're not. They have the range as an amateur band, but they don't have. You don't actually have to program. They're more like a CB radio, where they only have, I think, like 40 channels, but they're set. Whereas a amateur radio has millions of frequencies that I can set up, and I can tell you, hey, go to this frequency, and you and I can talk and be pretty isolated from other people. There's a lot more repeaters with amateur band, so there's repeaters all over the country that I can reach with this antenna here. Being a tech, I can only go just real close, or you can go get your general's license and you can go more high frequency, which those guys, they can talk to other countries with their radios. But that's another whole nother license, a whole nother class with that. So, but I wish I could remember that other. It's somewhat new group of radio guys. I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. I'll come find you if I remember what it is. But yeah, just look it up. Ham radio verse. If you enter ham radio verse, it's gonna come up. It's something else, and it's actually pretty nice. But they don't have nearly as many repeaters. So you know what a repeater is? You familiar with that? So what a repeater is, a lot of the towers, I don't readily see one around here. A lot of the radio towers you see, that's going to have a radio designated for that. So when I turn this on and I want to catch a repeater, that radio, I'm going to go across on a frequency here, but then it's going to flip around and send my broadcast that it's got an input. It's going to flip that around and put it on an output of another frequency. So basically that repeater is taking my input and then broadcasting it at an output, and then I can go a lot farther, because any radios from antenna to antenna is about 3 to 5 miles because of the circumference of the world. So at 6 feet tall on a fairly flat ground, an antenna like this is 3 to 5 miles, just because of the curvature. That's when you lose sight. But that repeater is going to take it up, several hundred feet, and then it's going to broadcast it down. So now from Topeka, I can talk to the Hoyt repeater in Hoyt. I can talk to Manhattan because the repeaters are that high off the ground, and they're able to travel. So yeah. Any questions? Sorry, I'm running late. Awesome. Good. I covered everything you guys needed to know.
Thank you. Do you have any printouts of things you can send your bags?
The only printout I have is my first aid kit, because people asked, hey, what do you put in your first aid kit? And they wanted to make some for their husbands. So that's the only thing. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I need some liquid.
Shade, lift it tight.
Hey, Dave.
Shade. Shade.